Do you support Donald Trump?
I wouldn't say I support Donald Trump, but I don't not like I'm not MAGA, but I'm not against
Okay.
MAGA
If you could
either.
go back in time and you could either vote for Donald Trump or Kamala Harris, who would you rather vote for?
Trump.
Okay. Why so?
So, I mean, to be completely honest, I came in here because I am not a big fan of identity politics and it being perpetrated on either side. And I kind of feel like we're doing too much boiling down of politics to whether you support Trump or not. There are some things that Trump does that I really don't like. There's some positions that he holds that I think I would like if they were done correctly, and he's not doing them correctly. But I feel like as a community, we've just been kind of boiling it down to Trump or anti Trump. And it's kind of just making politics a lot worse in general. We're dealing in absolutes related to one guy when we really shouldn't be.
Okay. This is just a political live about like which
No, no,
side
I,
you're
I
on, and like I'm against Trump and people are in support of Trump. I debate them because this like that's liberal versus conservative. Right now, I'm just getting people to try to realize that the choice they made was wrong, given that they still stand by their choice. Now, in the future, it will be like, why do you support the other Republican candidate? Or why do you support Republicans? That's
sure.
the
Yeah,
conversation that's going to exist. But as of right now, when Donald Trump is president, it makes sense to engage in this type of conversation. I'm not trying to say that we should, focus and center everything around Trump, but I mean, he is the president currently right now, and we have to
yeah,
acknowledge that.
he
And
is the president, but like you
this
can
is the
support some things he does and some and not support other things that he does. So I think like
yes.
the question, why do you support Trump, is
Yeah,
just
well,
like
yeah, I'm
it's
clarifying what I mean. Like, if you could go
yeah.
back in time and you could either vote for Donald Trump or Kamala Harris, who would you rather vote for? You said Donald Trump, so to me, that tells me that you support Donald Trump. So why?
Well, I think honestly, it's that I really didn't support Kamala Harris. I would have much preferred Nikki Haley as a nominee over Donald Trump, but I couldn't bring myself to vote for someone who didn't go through a primary and was just forced into the election by basically the party without it being decided on by the people.
So, are you saying Kamala Harris? Well, she
Yeah.
was because we voted for the Biden-Harris ticket, meaning that if Biden stepped down, that Harris would step up. 80% of the Democratic Party was satisfied with her being the nominee. No one decided to run against her. And if you cared at all about the democratic process, you wouldn't support a guy who incited a violent insurrection at the Capitol and pardoned violent rioters, police officers, while also cooing the country by literally sending false slates of electors to the electoral college to cast Trump votes when he didn't win to try to steal the election when he lost.
Look, I don't support what happened on January 6th at all, but to me, I mean, like he's in his second term now, and again, I've said multiple times, I'm not a fan of Trump or anything that he did, but while Biden was in office, being consistently told that he was in good health and that he was functioning well, and then he goes and embarrasses himself in the debate, and then all of a sudden that gets switched around, and we're put someone else in front of us. The entire thing just seemed extremely dishonest to me. And I know that Trump is dishonest in a lot of ways too. But I think
It
just like
seems dishonest to you. One is not evidence that it actually truly is dishonest. And then secondly, like again, in terms of this, even if it was dishonest, it doesn't at all compare to the level of dishonesty of Donald Trump, like you brought up. And I think that's an incredibly important thing to look at. Yes, you could say that you disagree with the level of dishonesty if that was dishonesty. Naturally, I don't think that's true. I mean, you can look at Kamala Harris's book. She wrote a book about her running. It definitely wasn't like something planned, right? There's no evidence substantiating that at all.
well, I mean, no, she definitely wouldn't say that it was something planned. And I'm not even saying that it's something planned. I'm just saying
That's
that
actually kind of
as
what
a
you were saying.
whole,
If it was dishonest, it would
no, I'm
necessitate that there was some sort of plan to do that
just
before.
because it was dishonest doesn't mean that it was planned. Like you
Well,
can
then what do you
be
mean by
dishonest.
dishonest?
I mean that they knew, people around him knew that he was in cognitive decline and acted like it wasn't the case. And then, for example, the press secretary said it after the fact that she knew that she had seen
Yeah, but
evidence of cognitive decline,
yeah, but how does
and
that
they
relate
told
to
us that
whether
he
or
was
not this
fine.
process is democratic in terms of Kamala Harris stepping up? It wasn't like their intention of doing that was to get past the primary so that they could then get Kamala Harris to be the candidate without any type of
I'm not
response from
saying
the
it was
primaries.
their I'm not saying it was their intention for it to end that way. I'm saying the entire thing put together makes it so I basically never would have wanted to vote for Kamala Harris regardless. Now, in regards to Trump, there are definitely things that I don't like about Trump. And honestly, I feel like I agree with Trump ideologically on a lot of things and disagree with the way that he carries it out because he's just like a gross human being in general and is extremely disrespectful and is eating away at the discourse, at our political discourse in this country. But I feel like that's where we kind of need to separate who the person is from like what the ideas are. And unfortunately, Trump makes that extremely hard. He brings in his arrogance and just completely irrelevant. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on here, but holery in general. And I don't agree with that. But ideologically, I feel like there's a lot of things that are very sound if they were to be implemented correctly.
Yeah, you speak a lot in generalities. Could you be specific with anything you're talking about? Because
Sure.
again, you
For
brought up like the
example,
general dishonesty with Kamala Harris, and you don't care about the dishonesty as much with Donald Trump. That's not like a reason to not vote for Donald Trump, but for some reason to you, it's a reason to not vote for Kamala Harris.
no, not necessarily Kamala Harris's dishonesty. The dishonesty of the Democratic Party and the inconsistencies in their beliefs. Right
But
now,
there's
the
two candidates.
Democratic Party.
It's not just the Democrats. It's Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it is like technically Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump, but at the end of the day, the parties are what are really running the show. It's hard to fall out of line with a party, and a lot of people are fed up with that. I think that's why Donald Trump won in the first place. But if you wanted to get me to get more specific into like ideologically what things I agree with Trump on and I don't agree how he's implementing them, we can go into that too.
Yeah, go ahead, because
Okay. So, number one, I honestly think that there are great ways to implement tariffs to bring back manufacturing to our country and just overall kind of reset our economy. And I don't think Trump is doing it correctly because when you put in tariffs, you also need to include investment in the United States infrastructure to be able to do like bring back manufacturing. And we need to also implement reskilling and courses for people to switch their careers to go back into manufacturing because we don't necessarily have the workforce to support it right now. However, ideologically, I don't think tariffs are as flawed as a lot of people say that they are.
so we don't have the workforce to do that, but yet we should deport people en masse.
Well, I don't know why you're bringing up immigration when I was talking about tariffs. I'm saying that we don't have a
Well, that's
workforce
Donald
that
Trump's
currently
immigration policy. Do you agree with his immigration policy?
I don't agree with how he's executing it, but I also don't believe that we should have millions of undocumented people in our country. And that's not because I think every single one of
So,
them
do you want to
is a
deport them, or
criminal.
do you want to provide them a pathway to citizenship so that they can be a part of our quote unquote greater labor force for tariffs?
Both. I think that it is dangerous to have millions of people in the country that you do not know who they are and where they came from. And I think that I'm not saying that they're all criminals or dangerous people. I think that 99% plus could be amazing people who just want to better their lives. But if you even have 1% of 10 million people coming in that have some sort of ill intent, that's still 100,000 people in your country that you don't know who they are, who could be up to no good. So just by the pure numbers,
So then vet people by providing them a pathway to citizenship. Now,
yeah,
if
we
you
should, but I don't think that we
sure
should let them
here,
be
I
in the
guess.
country while doing that.
Well, why not? They're already in the
Because,
country, and
yeah, they're
also then
already in
then,
the
then
country, but
they have no incentive to go through said process.
what do you mean?
If they have to leave the country and it's going to take them years to go through said process, well, then they have no incentive to go through the process or to identify themselves to authorities. My process actually gives them like an incentive to like identify themselves to authorities, given that they're already in the country.
I mean, I think that there are other incentives that you can do. You can say that you will be placed high, you'll be processed faster, you'll be higher on the list if you identify yourself to authorities. We've already given incentives, like cash incentives, for people to self-report themselves. I just don't think that it is responsible to do to leave millions of people in the country who you don't know
Undocumented
their
immigrants are
intentions.
multiple times as likely to commit violent crime, property crime in the United States comparative to natural born U.S. citizens. We don't understand the intentions of most U.S. citizens. That doesn't mean it is the case that we should be scared of most U.S.
No, but we're
citizens
not.
like that.
No, but we're also like we don't have a legal basis to just go around stripping people of their citizenship. Like people are in this. If people are citizens of this country, we can't just go around and pluck them off the streets because they might be doing whatever. Undocumented immigrants are people who are not citizens of this country who we should be vetting to make sure that they are not dangerous to I understand that there are plenty instances of domestic and that there are plenty of Americans who are dangerous, and that's unfortunate. There's not very much that we can do, unfortunately, on that front. But what we can do is take preventative measures to make sure that we are not allowing excessive amounts of people in here when by the law of large numbers, there's going to be some people who are trying to do us harm.
Yeah, again, of course, there's going to be some people, but proportionally less. So I don't
Sure,
know what your point
proportionally
is.
less, but I mean, did I literally said there's we can't just deport citizens from the country. That's not something that we have if we could just deport
Yeah,
all
but
of our
I don't know.
criminals,
I don't know why
great.
you're making this argument that we should have a greater level of being scared of undocumented immigrants though. I just
I'm
don't
not
see that.
saying that we
I
should
don't
be
see any
scared
reason
of
why
them.
they're
You're
they're
totally twisting
already
my words
they're
and straw
already
manning right
they're
now.
already in the country. If they were going to do something wrong, they would have done it, and they would do it.
That's just
And
not
they
true.
wouldn't be identifying themselves to authorities, like through
That's
the
the
context of the
person
system that I'm
who just
advocating
went
for.
and a synagogue in Manchester over the Jewish holidays was in Britain for 20 years. People are not necessarily going to
In a
carry out
different
their bad
country.
intentions in a different. I'm just using that as an example to say that people do not just come into the country and immediately commit a terrorist attack. They can hang out for a couple years before they do something. It's not like someone comes in and
Okay,
is like,
so
all right, I'm going to go.
if you think that someone's going to commit a T attack, how is them if they're going to stay in the country for years? Couldn't they just go through the legal process as well? Wouldn't they just wait to go through the legal process and they'd be able to get in anyway?
Well, there would be much more vetting involved with that,
Wait,
to
but
which they
there's
might
vetting under
not
the
get
process
into the
I'm
country.
advocating for.
I look. I don't know very much about your process. I am just saying that I don't even know how we ended up talking about immigration when I brought up tariffs. But all I'm saying is that I think
Well,
it's
because
irresponsible
you
to
didn't really
have
bring up
large.
things you disagree with Trump on. You agree with Trump on. You brought up things you disagree with Trump on in terms of tariffs. So then I brought you to a conversation maybe that you would agree with Trump on and I would disagree with you on.
But I do agree with Trump on them. I just don't agree with how he's doing it, and I think that that's the stance that a lot of people in the country would take,
So you
considering
do agree
that.
with tariffs. So then, what do you think would be preferable to do with tariffs? Are you saying you net would want it passed?
Um, Preferable to do with tariffs, I think that we need more investment into our infrastructure and into our labor base to actually make it more feasible to bring back manufacturing into the United States. When you just set up blanket tariffs, it's kind of hard to do it. But if you have an actual plan surrounding it, then I think it can be really great for the economy to make us less dependent on other countries for our goods that we're getting. I don't think that we should be as reliant on China as we are right now. And
Okay, so then why?
unfortunately,
So then why are we
people are.
tariffing our allies? Because there's no issue with being reliant on our allies to a certain extent.
Well, I think that the tariffs surrounding our allies are more focused on the fact that we are at the butt end of some bad deals with them. But honestly, I care way less about tariffing our allies and way more about tariffs with China. And I think that, and not even necessarily just with China and our adversaries, I just think that we need to do more domestic production and consumption within the United States rather than overseas. I think that it is a good idea to make us less reliant on other countries. I mean, think about when COVID happened, or when when that ship got caught in the Suez Canal. These are things that really, really impact our
Well, don't
economy.
make a new argument. Let me
And
talk.
go ahead.
That wasn't like an excuse for you to like, talk and like direct the conversation a different way. I'm just trying to ensure that the stream isn't lagging, and it looks like it's kind of lagging a lot. I don't know why my internet just does this. Why is it doing this? I don't know how under your system you think that there would be a greater level of conditions of vetting, right? Or a greater level of conditions of us understanding where people are, because you don't really provide an incentive, right, to a greater extent for people to actually like identify themselves to authorities. I know you said that you could have people leave the country and you could just put them on priority, but one, wouldn't that still have the idea of like incentivizing people to come to the country undocumented because they would get priority? And two, also that specifically, like it would disincentivize people who are already in the country undocumented to actually go through said process because they don't know how long it will take, even if they get priority.
I don't necessarily think so. And honestly, the rates of people coming into the country now are much lower than they were before. So I think like new people coming in is honestly less of an issue than the 10 million or so that we already have in the country. But I mean, look, this is not something that I have like an extensive plan to outline to you of how we are going to incentivize people to identify themselves. I don't even necessarily think that, like, as you're saying, people aren't just going to voluntarily identify themselves when it makes it harder for them. But I don't think that there is any case, like, I just don't think that in general it's a good idea to let 10 million people, even if 100 out of those 10 million people have bad intentions. That is extremely dangerous. Like that can be very deadly for American citizens.
Your argument right here would say that we should have no immigration. There's a small percent of immigrants that would be coming to the country that could be having negative or bad intentions.
No, I'm talking about people who are coming in undocumented. Of anybody, American citizens can have negative or bad intentions, but it helps if you can vet people correctly.
Yeah,
and do background checks.
I'm confused how you think your process vets more people. I told you how mine does.
I don't. You keep calling it a process. I'm not saying a process. I'm saying that I agree with the idea that we should be deporting or temporarily deporting undocumented immigrants from the country, because I don't think it's a good idea to have that many people who we have no idea who they are or where they came from sitting in the country. I don't have a system or a plan like you keep saying. I'm saying that I agree with the ideology, and I don't even agree with Trump's plan and how he's executing it, but I agree with the ideology that we should not have 10 million people who we don't know who they are, where they came from, just chilling in our country. I think that that's just not a good idea. But I don't know. Wait, I keep trying to talk about tariffs because I think that that's the most misconstrued ideology of Trump's, but somehow it keeps coming back to immigration. I'd love to continue our conversation.
I honestly think talking to you is like throwing my head through a wall right now, to be totally honest with you. I think I've made the same point like 6 times. And you're not understanding.
You're not actually, you keep straw manning what I'm trying to say instead of actually like listening to what I'm saying. You are straw manning me.
I listened to everything you had to say.
But you keep straw manning, saying I don't see how your plan is going to help, when I haven't even said that I have a plan. Like you're changing the subject. When I'm trying to talk about tariffs, you're changing it to immigration. And then when I'm talking about the ideology,
dude, I'm sorry. It's like you don't even know what's happening in the conversation. Like genuinely, like it's like you don't even know. It's like you have such a simplistic view of what's happening in the conversation. Why did we end up talking about immigration? I already told you. I described to you why.
Level-headed who's like not of like full on like MAGA idiot who is just like spewing off random shit. You didn't even listen to anything I just said there.
Repeat to me what I just said.
I don't know what you said.
Exactly.
And honestly, it's just like, it's crazy how like you're supposed to be like someone who's trying to engage in like civil discussion.
You're not listening
and then
to
you
me.
Finally get
You're not listening to me. You're not listening to me.
Because you haven't listened to a single thing I've said the entire time.
Yes, I have. I've listened to what you've said and I'm responding to it. This is so disingenuous.
But every time you respond, you're responding to an argument that I am not making. How are you going to call me disingenuous?
I have been responding to arguments you're making.
You haven't responded to us.
Yes, I have.
Okay, what? Okay, then go ahead. Without talking about immigration, which I never brought up, talk to me about tariffs and why you would disagree with the idea of tariffing other countries.
Yes, because it is the case that it imposes higher cost of goods specifically for American consumers, and it disincentivizes trade with the United States. It decreases standing of nations around the entire world with the United States. It decreases the level of export jobs in the United States that rely on exporting their products to countries around the world because of the retaliatory tariffs that they place on us. It decreases the size of the GDP. It's harmed our job market